Welcome to the Viavi Solutions series on the T-Bird 2000 OTDR platform, Episode 2, Setting Up a Tier 2 Test for Simplex Fiber. This video will help users set up their OTDR to perform Tier 2 tests. The following topics will be covered during this video: selecting the Enterprise SLM test function, accessing the test settings menu, loading preset configuration profiles, along with managing additional test menu options to include acquisition, alarms, link and cable, and file menus. Let's get started. Activating Enterprise SLM. First, let's go ahead and turn on our unit by pressing the On button in the lower left corner of the front panel. Once your unit is booted up, press the Home button to ensure you're back on the home screen. Select the appropriate Enterprise icon. Note there are two icons, one for single mode and one for multi-mode testing. You must select the appropriate icon for the test you're trying to run. Selecting the test icon will turn the icon yellow and switch to the results page for that test function. Accessing the settings menu. Once on the results page, go ahead and press the Setup button to access the Enterprise SLM test settings screen. Note, accessing the setup page is necessary before running your first test. This is also necessary if you set the unit back to factory defaults. After the initial setup, the test profile or smart configuration can be saved and used for future jobs. Selecting a smart config. The smart configs include predefined test parameters and label schemes for auto label generation. In the setup menu, press the Load Config icon. Then select the config file based on the desired label format and fiber type, multi-mode or single mode. For the purposes of this demo, we are going to use the Enterprise Simple Auto Single Mode Smart Config file. Press the soft key Load as Enterprise Config. Once your smart configuration is loaded, you'll be returned to the setup menu. From here, you'll be able to change additional settings. Completing additional information. Set Acquisitions menu. On the Acquisitions tab of the Setup menu, you can change the wavelengths to be tested by clicking on Laser. A list of available wavelengths will appear. The Quad OTDR module comes with 1310 and 1550 for single mode and 850 and 1300 nanometers for multi-mode. Tap on the wavelength you'd like to test with, or select All to test with both 1310 and 1550 for single mode testing. The type of cable and the number of fibers being tested can be changed under fiber count. For this example, we are using Simplex. It's important to set the appropriate indices of refraction for the fiber being tested. This is especially important for accurate length measurements of the fiber. There are several preset indexes available for common fiber cables. If your cable is not listed in the presets, refer to the specifications provided by the cable manufacturer. Then you can set the index of refraction manually. The default indices of refraction option for the T-Bird 2000 is G652, G657. The scatter coefficient is set to auto when testing. Viavi Solutions recommends the use of launch and receive cables for Tier 2 certification when feasible. These acquisition settings will ensure the T-Bird 2000 correctly identifies the first and last event of the fiber under test. For the launch cable, you can specify which trace event you want to count as the start of the fiber. Event 1. Select this if you're using a launch cable in between the OTDR port and the fiber under test. The first event will be the connection of the launch cable to the fiber under test. Event 2. Select this if you have a fiber jumper and launch cable in between the OTDR and the fiber under test. Once again, the first event will be the connection of the launch cable to the fiber under test. Event 3. Select this option if you're using two jumper cables or a jumper with a splice and a launch cable in between the OTDR and the fiber under test. Alternatively, you can use length. If you know the exact length of your jumper and launch cable setup, you can enter the distance manually. Then you can have the T-Bird 2000 discount this amount of fiber length in the trace results tables. The same logic holds true for the receive cable start options. Select event 1 if you're using one receive cable. The start of the receive cable will be identified as the last event. Event 2, select this if you have two receive cables at the end of your fiber under test. Once again, the start of the first receive cable will be identified as the last event of the fiber under test. And event 3 is selected if you have multiple receive cables or a receive cable with a splice in it. The start of the first receive cable will be identified as the last event. If you know the exact length of your receive cable, you can enter the distance manually. Then the OTDR will discount this amount of fiber cable in the OTDR trace results. Distance unit allows you to set your preferred unit of measure for the TBER 2000 trace distance on the Results tab after running a trace. Alarms menu. Tap the Alarms soft key. Once the alarm menu comes up, select Thresholds. The TBER 2000 comes loaded with predefined industry standard testing thresholds. If a given threshold value is not met, then the user will receive a visual notification alarm describing the location and nature of the failure. Select the test threshold that is applicable to your current certification work order, or you can set custom test thresholds by selecting User and entering the values manually. Now that we've changed our alarms, let's verify our user information and labeling scheme. Tap the Link Cable icon. This will take you to the Link Cable menu. From here, you can enter relevant job information such as site name, address, contact, and notes, as well as your technician's ID or job ID. Once you've filled out your site information, you can select the labeling menu by tapping on it. This will cause the label menu to light up, indicating that it's been selected. From here, you can change your label scheme, including the label prefix, starting fiber number, numbering increment, test direction, and you can change the test location labels. Now that your job information and labeling have been entered, it's time to set up your file saving preferences. Remember that once you set up these preferences, they can be saved for future use. This goes for file saving methods as well. In the Setup menu, tap the File soft key. This will take you to the File menu. From here, you can set up the file directory where your test results will be saved. Tap Directory Naming. Type in the name of the directory you want to use. The current directory will be displayed here. In the Results and Storage section, you can change the file naming options as well as set the default for what information will be saved. Additionally, you can set up auto-saving, which will automatically save results for all of your traces. Under the Results Configuration section, you can choose the types of report files that are generated during the saving process. This includes text and PDF files. You also have the option to save the last fiber microscope test image with your test. This is useful for back-to-back visual and OTDR tests of panels. This concludes Episode 2. Episode 3 will cover performing a test on the Enterprise SLM application for the TBER 2000 platform. Thanks for watching.